Thanks, Ashley. Welcome, everyone. My name is Greg Fisher. Like Ashley said, I'm a solutions engineer here at Hagerman, and we're going to talk footprint symbols in general. And before I go and create one, I am going to create one in the demonstration. I like to talk concepts first, and concepts are tied to workflow. And there's really two ways you can look at this from a workflow standpoint when you're designing your enclosure. It's, do I start my whole design process at the schematic level, or do I start the design process at the panel level? Ideally, in a perfect world, we start the process at the schematic level. That way, when you go to design the panel, as you're going to see here shortly, I'm going to pull up a list of all the components that need to go in my panel. So it's a nice check system. Whatever I have in the schematics, I need to put in the panel. But not everybody lives in the perfect or ideal world. I have many customers that have to start with the design of the panel first before they have one schematic even drawn. AutoCAD Electrical doesn't care. Workflow-wise, we can go in either direction, and the whole concept is to link your footprint symbol to your schematic symbol at the end of the day, at the end of the project. How you get there, software doesn't care. Like I said, ideally, if you can start at the schematic level, great. But if you can't, then you can start at the panel level. And one difference between inserting a schematic symbol versus inserting a footprint symbol is when you insert a footprint symbol, you're doing it via the part number. You're not just plucking from the icon menu and grabbing your block from there. It needs a part number to insert the footprint symbol. And there's multiple ways you can get there as well. And I'm going to talk about what I refer to as a four-step process. So besides just footprint symbols, if you get a brand new component in tomorrow, hot off the shelf, you want to think about a four-step process. A, you have to create the schematic symbol that you're going to use in the schematic design. You have to create the footprint symbol that's going to go on the panel. You have to add the part record to the parts database. And then to top it off, you want to link the footprint symbol to the part record. And we do that through a footprint, we do it through another database that's called footprint_lookup.mdb out of the box. That's what ties your footprint symbol to your part number so it knows what to insert. So as an example, I'm just going to zoom in around a row of circuit breakers here. And the other thing I'm going to tie into this as well is, for those of you that have to create your panel drawings first, most of the time these days in North America, as far as tags are concerned, we use tags that reference the reference number in the drawing. Like this is CB328 because it's on reference number 328, 330, 330, so on and so forth. If you have to design your panel first, and you know you're going to end up using reference numbers at tags, there's no way you can guess what the tag is going to be on the footprint symbol if that's going to be placed down first. Don't worry about it. As you're going to see right now, I'm going to insert a footprint symbol. I'm going to give it a generic tag name, but then when I go to insert the equivalent schematic symbol, it will update to the reference number and then come back and update my footprint symbol. So let's get to actually inserting footprint symbols. We're going to start there before I go over how we create them and how we link them. So let's just say I start with an icon menu. So theoretically speaking, I'm putting my footprint symbol down before the schematic symbols in the schematic drawing. And I'll go to circuit breakers and I'll insert one. So right off the bat, you're going to see that this is completely different than if I was inserting a schematic symbol, I'd be inserting the symbol right now. Here, I need a part number. So I'll hit the catalog lookup. And notice, even before I do that, We have choice A, choice B, choice C down here. So I'm going to go to catalog lookup, and I'm just going to pick one. First one that comes up. It's an Eaton part number, single pole breaker, and I'll select OK. So what that did, what in reality, what just happened was, after I chose my part number, it looked in the footprint lookup database. It saw that the part number was in there and linked to a footprint block. That's how it knows what to insert, because the part number that I chose is linked to the block that's on the end of my crosshairs right now. So I'll just drop this in out to the left here. You get your standard insert edit component dialog box to appear. And like I said, I'm just going to throw a tag down here like CB1, even though eventually this will be CB whatever my reference number is, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'll throw in a couple lines of descriptions. And I'll give it a location code. Pick OK, select OK, and everybody's happy. Now this time, I'm going to go right back to the icon menu. And I'm purposely going to show you what happens when you go to insert a part number and that part number is not linked to a footprint symbol. So I'm going to pick a flow switch. Chances are I actually don't have a footprint symbol for a flow switch, but I'll hit catalog lookup anyway, and I'll grab one and select OK and pick OK here. This is the alert that you will get when your part number is not linked to a footprint symbol. So right now, it doesn't know what to insert. There's no link between the two. So I got to go to choice B and or choice C. Now, if I take a look at choice B, any of these multiple options under choice B are perfectly acceptable to use. Now, personally, I would never recommend using just a generic marker. It puts a generic block in, basically gives you a tag. But if you have to draw a shape to represent your footprint symbol, that's fine. I could pick an existing footprint symbol that's already in my drawing, so maybe the one I'm trying to use is very similar, hopefully in size, to another one that I can pick in the drawing. Let's say you created the footprint symbol itself, you created the block, but then you didn't add the part record to the parts database. Or you created the block, you added the part record to the parts database, but you didn't link the two of them together via the footprint database. So if you created the block, you could just browse to where the block is. It's just, as we know, AutoCAD Electrical symbols are AutoCAD blocks with attributes. So search to the folder where your DWG file is and insert it that way. If you have a non-AutoCAD Electrical block that's already in the drawing, so you haven't made it AutoCAD Electrical intelligent, let's say, you can pick one on the drawing and it instantly makes it intelligent. So you'll get the linking between your schematic symbol and the footprint symbol, even though you haven't created an AutoCAD Electrical specific block. So all of these options are still fine to use, but every time you have to go to choice B, it's more mouse clicks. More mouse clicks means more time that it's going to take you to actually create your panel in general. So like I said, choice B, if you have to go there, it's perfectly fine. It will still supply the link between your footprint symbol and your schematic symbol on the schematic drawing. But my recommendation is always create the footprint symbol, link it to your part number, so you never have to worry about going to choice B. You'll never get that alert. You'll pick your part number. Next thing you know, your block will be on the end of your crosshairs. And I get it. Sometimes we're in a time crunch. You know, like I said, you got a brand new component off the shelf, you know, and you got to get it in your drawings, whether it's at the schematic level or the panel level, and you're going to do it to get your job done the quickest way possible. I get that. But if you continue to use that same block and you always have to go to choice B, you know, more mouse clicks, more time. So even if you have to resort to this once in a while, again, that's okay. You got to get your job done. But at some point, take the extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to create the footprint block, link it to the part record, so you don't have to worry about going to choice B. Choice C you would use if you did indeed create the footprint symbol, you added it to the parts database, now you want to link them together with the footprint lookup database. That's where I would say add entry to manufacturer, and I'm going to do an example of this very shortly. Part number's already there, it's locked in, it's grayed out. So then I would browse to where like I said, I created the block, I added the part record, I just haven't linked the two of them together. This is where the linking happens. This is accessing that footprint lookup database that I keep referring to. So once you tie the part number to a specific block, to a specific footprint symbol, they're forever going to be related. And any time in the future that you assign that part number, it will now know what to insert, so you won't have to go to choice B. I'm going to do that very shortly here. So I'm just going to cancel out of that. Now I'll get back to the circuit breaker that I put down here. And this is, you know, doesn't tie directly to this webinar as far as just footprints are concerned, but just as an example, let's say I want to go and insert that CB1 that I just inserted into the panel. So I'll go back to my schematic tab. I'll go to my panel list, small project, so I'll do them all. And I'll sort the list via the tag name. Obviously, this project has already been started, so I'll mark all the existing ones. I could hide the existing ones as well. There's the breaker that I just inserted in the panel. And now I'm inserting the equivalent schematic. Remember, I tagged it with CB1. I'll say insert. Now I get that when your schematic symbol is not linked to the footprint symbol, and that's pretty common for stuff out of the box. So I'll go back to a single pole breaker, drop it into my drawing. Now it's going to take on the tag CB 331. Everything gets carried over from whatever I filled in at the panel level. That's why my insert edit component dialog box is already filled out. I pick OK. I'll close down my list. So now if I go back to my panel drawing, and as you can see, the tag has been updated. So the point of that was, if you do have to insert your footprint symbols first, and you know eventually you're going to be using reference numbers for tags, don't worry about what the tag is when you insert it into the panel. You're going to always update it after the fact. Now, let's say that the opposite effect, let's say you do live in an ideal world, you can design your schematics first, then you can insert the footprint symbols that represent those schematic symbols that you've already placed down. That's our perfect world. So what I would do in that case is I would pull up a schematic list. And it's going to kind of be the opposite of what I just did. It's going to pull out a list of every single schematic symbol that has a tag. Again, I'll sort the list, make sure it's set up for tag name. I'll mark whatever's been inserted here, and I can also hide whatever's been inserted here. So here's this CB229. And I'll insert this. Obviously, this part number was linked to a footprint symbol. I'll drop it in. Everything gets carried over from whatever you filled in at the schematic level. So this is already done. I pick OK, and it'll bring my list back up. Now, whether you're inserting a footprint from the icon menu, like I did with the initial single pole breaker there, or whether I'm inserting symbols from a schematic list, same rules apply. If your part number is not linked to a footprint symbol, you're going to have to eventually go back to choice B. So as an example, I know these are fuse part numbers. They're not fuse holder part numbers. So I know they're not going to be linked. So if I pick from the list and I select insert, notice it didn't know what to insert. So it takes me to this dialog box where I previously was. And I could assign another part number. I'm not going to do that, but the point is now I'm right back to having to go to choice B, which is drawing a shape, picking a footprint block, selecting from a library, whatever. Again, more mouse clicks that I have to abide by here. So it doesn't matter how you're inserting the footprint symbol, meaning from the icon menu or from a list like I have in front of me right now. If your part number is not linked to a footprint block, it's not going to know what to insert. So having said that, next thing I'm going to do is actually create a footprint symbol. I'm going to add a part record to the parts database, and then I'm going to link the two of them together via the footprint lookup database. So as an example, here's a drive symbol I pulled out of the archives that I used to use years ago when I was doing this for a living. Let's hypothetically speaking, here's my brand new component just off the shelf. I got to create a schematic symbol, footprint symbol, add the part record to the parts database, link the two of them together. And I have taken the time, so we don't waste our time here, of creating the schematic symbol. So as you can see, this is an intelligent AutoCAD Electrical symbol. I already have description filled in, an installation code, a location code, pin numbers. Now notice that this does not have a part number assigned to it. And on top of that, let's say I don't have the part number in the parts database to assign it yet. Okay, let's take care of that first. So I'll go to the lookup to access the catalog browser. The manufacturer for this drive is going to be Indramat. Got a couple Indramat part numbers in here already, but they don't represent the one that I'm looking at right now. So, and this is what is required of you. When you have a brand new component in, you got to add a part record to the parts database. And to save some time here, I'm just going to copy this row and I'll paste it in down here. And I'm going to change this part number to a W052. So I've got a brand new part number. Okay. Manufacturer, I'll leave the same just to save some time. Description, I'll leave the same. The type, the horsepower, the enclosure, I'll leave everything else the same. But as you can see, it is a brand new part record in the parts database. So I'll save my changes, or I'll accept my changes. And I'll assign that part number to the parts to my symbol. Whoop, I want that one. Already had pins in there, so it's not paying attention to the part record for the pin information because they were already filled in. So I got a part number. I'll select OK. Now when I go back to the panel, whoop, and let's say I'll go back to my schematic list, pan down to here. So right now, as you know, I'm just going to reload this. I've created a schematic symbol for this new component. I've just added the part record to the parts database. Haven't created the footprint symbol yet. There's the part number right there. So once again, if I try to insert this, I have to go back here because there's no footprint symbol yet created, and I haven't linked the part number to the footprint symbol. So let's go create a footprint symbol. And I'm going to open up a block. This would have been a generic AutoCAD block. So I'm just opening up the block as a drawing. So this is my footprint symbol that needs to go into the panel. So on my panel tab, I'm going to go to my symbol builder. And just like when you create schematic symbols, we got to select objects. I'll wrap a window around everything. I'll pick an insertion point. I'll pick the midpoint, let's say, of the line right there. I'm going to choose a panel footprint symbol. Now, if you've never created a footprint symbol, or you haven't in a while, when you choose a footprint symbol category, nice part is you don't have to pick a type. It's always going to be generic. So we select OK, and it takes us into our block editor, just like with a schematic symbol. The nice part about creating a footprint symbol, though, is you only need one attribute is required, and that's the tag. All the other ones, I don't need to add these to the footprint symbol itself. I'm still going to get manufacturer, part number, descriptions. You're going to see. That's all going to show up in the footprint symbol itself. So when I go to insert it, I can still fill in descriptions, installation, location. I'm not going to add the actual attributes to the symbol, though, as you're going to see here. So I'll pick the tag itself, and I'll insert the attribute. And I'll just place it down, let's say, right about here. And I'll make the size of the text, since it is a footprint symbol, a little bit bigger. Close my properties down. Maybe I'll move that down just a tad more. So at this point, I'm done. I don't need to add any of those other attributes. So I'll select Done. The other thing that's different with footprint symbols versus schematic symbols is there is no naming convention, which obviously makes it nice. So as you can see here, it has a unique identifier. This gets a little jumbled, as you're going to see here in a minute. But I'm going to name this symbol FP. I'm going to name it FP underscore Indramat drive dash 2, just because I have a couple other ones from when I was messing around. Now, the other thing that you don't need with a footprint symbol, you don't need to create the image file, because typically with schematic symbols, as you know, you add those schematic symbols to your icon menu. So that's a nice feature when it creates the image file for you. We don't need the image file because we're inserting symbols via footprint symbols via the part number. And then you just give it the path where you want to store it. And there's two theories of thought here. Out of the box, you can follow their lead as far as the library is concerned, because when you go into the out-of-the-box library, underneath the panel section, it lists all the manufacturers. Underneath the manufacturers, you'll have folders of certain categories. So you can follow that, or like your schematic symbols, or what you should be doing, at least with your schematic symbols, is put them in your own custom folder, either or. So I'm going to put this in my own custom folder. Select OK. No image file. Select OK here. And I'm going to say no to wanting to insert this after the fact, because I'm not in a real drawing. So I've just created myself a footprint symbol. At this point, I've got 3 out of the 4 steps completed. Schematic symbols done. Footprint symbols done. I just added the part record to the parts database. Last step, link the footprint symbol to the part number via the footprint lookup database. And we access that by going to our panel tab, other tools panel, footprint database editor. And what's going to happen here is every manufacturer is a table in the footprint lookup MDB file. If you have to add a table, that's perfectly fine. Because as you can see right here, I could create a brand new table. And I had to do that with Indramat. But I'll select Edit Existing Table. Here's all the manufacturers that I installed out of the box and some that I've added on my own. Here's Indramat. I'll select OK. I've got 2 of them in here already, but I need to add a new one. Now, you can also use wildcards with these. When I'm done here, I'll show you if I pull up another one, you can use wildcards, because a lot of times you could have multiple part numbers, but they all use the same footprint symbol. So this way you don't have to create a footprint symbol for every single part number if you want to use the same. So in my case, I'm going to hit the lookup right here. I could type it in, but I'm going to hit the lookup. I'm going to change my table to drives, and I'll change my search criteria to Indramat. And then here's the part number that I just added. Here's the part record that I just created. So I'll select it. Nice thing about that is the part number is correct because you picked it from a list and you didn't retype it in. Sometimes when you retype it in, you make a typo. Then you wonder why the 2 of them aren't linked together. And then the footprint block, who do I want to link this part number to? I just created the footprint block. Here's where I was just referring to, they're out of the box. It goes to your library. And then every manufacturer has its own folder in there. I'm going to store it, or I already did store it, in my own custom folder. and here's the one that I just created. You can see the date on there, the time. You know this is the one that I just created. I pick open, and then as you can see right here, anytime in the future, you know, if I go to insert a footprint symbol, whether it's from the icon menu, you know, just hitting catalog lookup, or from a list, anytime I assign this part number, when it's time to insert the equivalent footprint symbol, it's going to know what to use because my part number right here is linked to my footprint block. I could put a comment in here as well if I wanted to. And I'll say okay. And then I'm going to say okay, save, exit. Well, I'm just going to close this out. Didn't do anything to it except create a footprint symbol out of it. Now, since I just added the part record and I linked the two of them together back on my schematic drawing, even though I have already added the part number, a lot of times you have to update it when you link it to the footprint database. Sometimes you don't. It's kind of quirky. But I'm going to hit lookup, and I'll just reassign it. And I'll select OK. So now I go back to my panel. I'll go back to my schematic list. Once again, I'll reload it because I've made updates. There's my drive. Now I'll insert it. Now it knows what to use because I've linked the footprint symbol to the part record in the parts database. And like I said, remember, I didn't put any of those attributes in the block itself, in the footprint symbol, but they're all still here. That's the beautiful part about creating footprint symbols. Really, besides that P tag 1, if you want other attributes as part of the footprint symbol, what they do is actually show up in your drawing. So they're not invisible, let's say. So I'll just pick OK here. Brings up my list just like always. I'll close it down, and there's my footprint symbol. And like I said, when you go to that footprint lookup database, because this is ultimately what this webinar is all about, is this footprint database editor. This time, I'm just going to look at another table where you can see, you know, here's Allen Bradley. I talked about wildcards, and if you go to the help menu, you can get a list of what all the wildcard represents. But, you know, here's a case where if I go to edit this, you know, what they're saying is anytime you attach an Allen Bradley part number that starts with 100-B, doesn't care where it ends, here's the footprint symbol that it's ultimately linked to. So this wildcard could represent 30 part numbers. I don't have to create a separate footprint symbol for each one because it all uses the same. And if it does, throw the wildcard in there, and now you can have one footprint symbol representing multiple part numbers. So I'll go back to four-step concept. You know, when you think footprint symbol, you usually don't think four-step concept. You think, oh yeah, I'm going to create an electrical footprint symbol. I'm going to make it intelligent. Fantastic. I recommend everybody do that, but you're not done at that point. You have to link that footprint symbol that you created to the part record in the parts database. So obviously you have to add the part record to the parts database first. So four-step concept, you get a brand new component in right off the shelf, got to create the schematic symbol, got to create the footprint symbol, Got to add the part record to the parts database. You link the two of them together, everybody's happy. And like I said, I do not frown on choice B when you have to go there. I get it. Try to avoid it, especially, maybe after that one time you were in a hurry, maybe when that job's done, it's like, okay, let's go back, create our footprint symbols correctly. Let's link them to the part record so they'll forever be linked and I don't have to worry about going to that choice B. Okay, that's what I've got. How are the questions coming, Keith?
So far, there are no questions posted.
Oh, wow. Are there any questions out there? If you guys have questions, Ashley, I'm probably stealing Ashley's thunder here. You can go to the go-to portion. Hope everybody can see that okay. Wow, that's an easy crowd. Will you be sending the link to the recorded session? Ashley, how do you handle that?
Yes, we'll send out an email. You'll probably get it tomorrow, which will have a link for the recording.
Okay, perfect. Oh, here's another one. Now they're coming in. How do the updates you did to the database change when you upgrade the software? Are those lost? Twofold. There's a migration tool, so you get a new release of the software. You can migrate together what customization you've done versus what Autodesk might have added. Or I have some customers that have used the same parts database for this last several releases because they've customized it so much, which we obviously always recommend. Until, and they haven't in a while, but until they drastically change the format of that database, and if they do, they'll supply a migration tool at that point. A lot of people just continue to use the same one from release to release. Let's see, please review why it is not necessary to add attributes in Symbol Builder. It's not required. The only time, or the only one that is required is the P tag, the tag 1. You can certainly add the other ones, and what will happen is they will show up. Look, if I go back to the drawing here, if I included my description attributes, the descriptions would show up on my footprint symbol. Right now, I just choose not to. Okay, I have a question. Have downloaded footprints and want to link them. I missed a step. Okay. You go to your manufacturer's website. I assume that's what you're asking. You download the block. Everybody does it. I probably did it for this one. The next step would be to take that block that you've downloaded. First of all, create an AutoCAD Electrical footprint symbol out of it. That's what I did when I added the P tag 1. I actually created a real AutoCAD Electrical footprint symbol. And then you link them together. The link is through this footprint database editor. Once you access this, you're looking at the footprint lookup database itself. This is where the actual linking comes into play. And look at all the wildcards they're using here. So essentially, you link your part number or part numbers. This is the name of the footprint block from Siemens right here. That's what links them together. Does AutoCAD allow use of 3D symbols? If so, can you show an example? I don't have an example, but you can absolutely use 3D symbols. And especially, and that's a whole nother conversation, the interoperability between AutoCAD Electrical and Inventor. You can supply 3D symbols that way as well, but sure, you can use 3D symbols. Does the footprint category library come with AutoCAD Electrical standard? Yes, it does. Is there a way to see all the parts in the parts database that do not have a footprint linked to it? No, not in the software. Yeah, I really don't know of a way that you can tell what has a footprint symbol and what doesn't. You'd have to open up the database and access, go through the manufacturers. You know, the best way to tell would be just to open up that footprint lookup database itself, and you'll see what's there. Where can we find good info on the design intent for each attribute we find on many components? I don't really understand that question. Where can we find good info on the design intent? Let's take that to a sidebar. Can I show the schematic shot? Absolutely. Here's my schematic symbol right here. A lot of the footprint drawings have specific numbers on the drawings rather than part numbers. I think what you're talking about is the name of the block. The question is, a lot of the footprint drawings have specific numbers on the drawings rather than part numbers. Example, ABIO C280 instead of 1746. My best guess there is that the footprint block itself out of the box isn't always necessarily going to match whatever the part number is. Does the database have to necessarily be used, or can you use the user-defined list of objects? You can use that to insert them, absolutely, but they still ultimately have to be linked to a part number. What is a wildcard? Wildcard is simply, you know, you're having multiple part numbers linked to one footprint symbol. Does the manufacturer supply schematic and footprint blocks? Yes. It's not a guarantee that every part number that you get out of the box will have a footprint symbol already linked to it, but just based off of my experience, yes, a lot of them do. If the library is stored on a network drive, can you demonstrate how to link to the library on other employee computers? I can't demonstrate that right now, but that's done through the environment file if you choose to use the environment file, or through your support file search path. Will there be access to this webinar for future use? Yes, as Ashley said, you'll get an email about it tomorrow. So I've got to run. If there's more questions, keep firing away. And Ashley will let myself or Keith know anything that doesn't get answered, and we will get back to you.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Yes, you can go ahead and enter any last-minute questions, and those will just be printed off in our report, and we can get those to Greg, your sales rep, or whoever to get those answered. When we shut down the broadcast, there will be a survey that will pop up, and you can also put anything in there as well. Again, tomorrow you'll receive an email with the link for the recording, and we just thank you for attending. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.